Okay, so I'm your facilitator. Hopefully you know who I am by now. I've been the one being pesky with all the email traffic and videos and things I've been sending your way. So if you have any questions come along, just feel free to holler. We'll be talking about that here in a minute. Let me introduce some other people. Okay. So our workshop objectives generally are to provide insights and lessons learned into the NASA project management and systems engineering directorates, essentially across the agency, from key NASA, other government and industry leaders and subject matter experts. Oftentimes these workshops, if you've been to them before, we also try to do a lot of networking and getting to know each other across the agency. This is a little harder in this situation since we're not co-located. And so we've had to kind of compromise a little bit on that. We'll try to do a few things, but it's obviously much more difficult in this environment to do what we normally do. Because now we're in this kind of environment. And of course, we've all having to adjust to that. But anyway, our objectives are still the same, where we try to bring you some great leaders across the agency and other places to share some of their lessons learned and some of their insights to help you develop better as a project manager. So a couple of items of success that we'd just like to bring up is that be sure to engage. I know it's harder in this kind of environment versus being in a room. But ask questions, engage, participate, and we want you to take full advantage. And as I had mentioned in the preview video, I've asked our speakers to speak about half their time to share some lessons with you, but the rest of the time is for you to engage. So please do that. On follow-up, I've given you everybody's quad chart, given you everybody on the roster, including our speakers. You have their contact information. So, highly recommend you pick out a few people and follow up with them, maybe that you don't know or like to get to know. Also, highly recommend that you follow up with our speakers. They, are donating their time basically to come speak with you and share some insights with you. And so let's thank them for that time that they're sharing with you. You have their contact information, so I highly recommend after the workshop, shoot them an email, send them a thank you, and thank them for their time. And then we'll be doing a variety of surveys, and we'll be talking about that here in a little bit. Basically, stay tuned and participate in the surveys as we go forward. So since some of you have not participated in the Flight Projects Development Program workshops before, just let me give you a little bit of a background. This is an intensive 2-year project management development program at the Goddard Space Flight Center. And I call it kind of a master's course in project management. And it entails all these different elements that you see. It involves developing a very detailed individual development plan, and there's a lot that goes into doing that. Deals with mentoring. The people in FPDP have 2 mentors, official mentors. They may have others, but 2 official mentors that get assigned, one from a project management point of view and one from a resource management point of view. There's a lot of work assignments dealing with this over the 2 years. We do usually 2 job rotations, so we throw them into the fire, so to speak, in some very responsible jobs, and they have to come up to speed quickly and work with the team. And then after a year, we usually pull them out of that and throw them into another fire. But it's all designed to give them that hands-on experience and also give them experience in maybe parts of a program that they are not experienced with. Maybe if they were, had a lot of experience dealing with maybe phase CD, we'll throw them on the front end of a program and vice versa. Then there's the cohort aspect, and I'll be introducing the cohort shortly. But there's the aspect of working together as a team, and we have a lot of activities, and then including triad coaching and other things that we involve in the cohort. There's also obviously the curriculum side of things. There's required and elective classes, again, to fill gaps and skills. And then there's development and networking. This workshop is actually one aspect of that development and networking, but there's other aspects. And then there's a capstone project. The second year, they get assigned actually a specific project that is meaningful to the Goddard Space Flight Center and decided on by the governance board that would be helpful. And they get to go off and work on it as a project and apply everything that they've been learning, and they bring all their tools to bear on that project. Anyway, just kind of a quick overview of what the Flight Project Development Program is all about. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, or I'm sure any of our FPDP members would be glad to engage with you on that as well. So let me introduce quickly our current cohort. Generally, in the past, we've had 4 or 5 members in the cohort. This time, because of the anticipated needs at the Goddard Space Flight Center for future project managers, and continue to build the pipeline, given the usual situations of retirements and aging workforces and just the needs. We've expanded it to these 9 individuals. So you'll be hearing from all of them in the course of the next 3 days. You'll be hearing from Milton, Kristen, Andrea, Adam, Frida, Jayton, Karina, Melanie, and Joe. Because I've also, part of their assignment is that they had to go off and do some case study work, and we'll be sending you the results of that, and they will be presenting those to you as some additional insights into project management. Also like to introduce Donna Swan, who is the program manager at Goddard Space Flight Center for the FPDP program. Hey, Donna, would you want to say a few words and say hi?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining. It looks like we have a great crowd, and I think it's going to be a great 3 days. If you have any questions regarding the Flight Projects Development Program or what we're doing here at Goddard, please feel free to reach out to me. If something is going on in the next 3 days that you need me, hit the chat box, and I'd be happy to connect with you offline. Thanks, Walt.
All right. Thanks, Donna. Appreciate you being here. Also, just to quickly introduce, we have Dave Mitchell with us this morning, and of course he's on the agenda to speak with us later in the workshop, but he is the head of flight project director at Goddard Space Flight Center, and you'll be hearing some of his insights in a couple of days. Okay, so generally at these workshops, we go around and we introduce everybody. Okay, so everybody has a chance to kind of meet everybody. Now, when we're all together in a room, that's a little easier said than done. And but trying to do this virtually becomes more challenging, because by the time I go around to over 70 people and ask you to turn your camera on and your microphone on, and then we say something and then change to the next person, we'll be here for probably the next hour and a half or 2 hours. So we had anyway, we always try to be more creative in this virtual environment. So we've come up with a different way to introduce everybody. And hang on 1 second. Let me make an adjustment. Just one adjustment here, just to make sure things are working.
Well, we also have Dave on the line to welcome folks before we get started.
Oh, excellent. Okay. Hey, Dave, did you want to say a few words?
I'm happy to. I wasn't sure where this was going, so
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm happy to spend a minute or two welcoming everybody, and I'm glad you could all make it. As Walt already said, I'll be joining you for an hour and a half or so on Wednesday. As I looked at this agenda in the speakers, it's amazing what you guys will be a part of in the next few days. As Walt said, it's unfortunate it's virtual, because in my mind, a big part of this is the networking aspect. So try to push yourselves out there, even in the virtual environment, and do the best you can with that kind of networking. I kind of look at this, quite frankly, as almost like a mini SES CDP. If any of you are familiar with candidate development program that we haven't had, unfortunately, for a number of years with the agency. But this is a great opportunity. I see some real similarities here for you guys to all engage with other centers. I can say from my own experience, quite many moons ago on SCS CDP, I reached out to people across the agency through the years because of our working together on CDP. So hopefully in some way this with the FPDP forum and build those contacts, because you'll be using them down the road as you rise into your leadership positions and need to leverage off of other centers of the agency and headquarters. So please do that. Walt also mentioned the 9 new people in our class and the growth. That is not only because of the pipeline and the retirements, but the number of projects that have been brought to bear at Goddard and I'm sure at other places as we're going to, whether it's Artemis or science missions or whatever it might be. There's a lot of good, challenging work, and we need to, develop the next generation. So it's great. I'm so happy to see all these people online. So with that, I'll throw it back to Walt, and I really look forward to the conversation on Wednesday. And one last thing, as Walt already said, the networking, even with speakers, I'll just, for anybody on the line, you ever want to reach out to me just to talk, feel free to do so. Look forward to, that's one of my favorite things to do, is just, work with the next generation, and any way I can help, I want to do that. So welcome, enjoy your 3 days here. Thank you all.
Thanks, Dave. Really appreciate that. And yes, please follow up with Dave. You'll be hearing him in a couple of days. But it's part of the value of this workshop is we try to bring you these different leaders up close and personal. And they're all very much interested in your development. So take advantage of that. All right, let's introduce everybody who's here at the workshop. So hopefully this will work. All right. Let's go over a few workshop logistics. First off, as you'll notice in the agenda, we built in lots of breaks. Again, we're trying to make the days a little bit more reasonable for these kinds of workshops. And so we have lots of breaks built in, so we'll take advantage of that. And I'll have a 10-minute timer at each of the breaks, so give you plenty of time to refresh your water and drinks and so forth. I sent you a copy of the presentations that I have for today, and as other presentations come in, some of them come in at the last minute. Some speakers don't have presentations, but I'll send you the presentations later today for tomorrow, so you'll be getting copies of all of those as well. So as I mentioned in the preview video, we will be using the Teams chat, so the chat room. Hopefully you can make some comments to everybody, keep the conversation going. So hopefully by now, because everybody should be masters at using Microsoft Teams, you can turn on your chat window and follow along with the chat. We want you to use the Teams chat during the workshop for getting to know your workshop cohort. So, send some comments to people, share a thought, share a comment about the presentations that you're seeing. Ask if you have a question about the workshop, feel free to ask questions there. That's fine. However, don't use the Teams chat for asking questions to our speakers. And we have another tool for that. So we won't be using it. It just becomes too hard to sort out comments with the questions. And we wanted to have a dedicated channel for doing that. Anyway, that's the Teams chat. So as I mentioned before, we're using the tool called Slido for this workshop, and it's a very simple tool. So at this point in time, if you haven't already, I use my cell phone as an easy way to do it. You can take a picture of the QR code and it'll take you right to our site. Or if you just go to slido.com on a laptop or a tablet or whatever you're using, enter in today's event code, which is 84318. And if you haven't done that yet, go ahead and do that now. That'll take you to something that looks like this is the website, and you'll notice down here in the left is an area that says enter event code, and that's where you type in today's event code, and that'll take you to our site. So we're using Slido for two different purposes. One is to ask questions of the speakers. So whatever speaker is, our guest speakers talking at that time, if you want to ask them a question, it becomes difficult, again, with 70 people, trying to talk on top of each other. So we want to try to do this somewhat organized. So as they're speaking, be typing in questions that you might want to ask them and fill up our queue. And I'll be using the queue, essentially, of questions that you create for asking them when we get to the Q&A session. Okay? So in this case, type in your question. It's very simple if you're using a cell phone or whatever device you're using. Then it will log on that question. And then the other thing is, as you review the questions, you'll be able to see them as they enter the queue. And you will be able to, if you like the question, if it's a question, for example, somebody else asked, that is a question that you had the same idea or you like the question, hit the thumbs up. And then that creates then kind of the top questions will rise in the queue. If a lot of people have the same question, then that makes it easier when we get to the Q&A session. Now, the whole point of all this is that we have a lot of time reserved for you so that you can ask questions and engage. If we get to the Q&A session and you haven't typed in any questions, then it's going to be pretty boring for a half an hour to sit here and look at each other if you haven't asked any questions. So be sure to do that. If I don't have enough questions in the queue, I'll be using my random selector here, and I'll ask you directly and call on you personally, what question would you like to ask? So unless you want me to do that, please fill in the queue. Okay, so now that hopefully everybody's logged into Slido. When you first get in, basically what I like you to, if you haven't logged in yet, please do that now. Type in, if you haven't typed anything in yet, type in it'll ask you your name the first time. Please put your name in, that way you kind of know who asked the question. So when we get into the Q&A sessions versus just anonymous. Go ahead and type in your name and just say hello if you haven't said hello. Just go ahead and do that so I know everybody is on board. So this is the area that we'll be using for the questions. So after this, we kind of get through this introduction session and we get into our speakers. This will be the same chat board, separate chat room that we'll use. Just type in your questions that you want to ask the speaker. The other thing we'll be doing is we'll be doing some live polls. And so you can see the question I had put on the screen, which is, have you attended a FPDP workshop before? So let me turn on that poll, and that should pop up on your screen. And then you'll be able to see the results as people vote. So it looks like we have about 85% of our group today has never been to a workshop. So that's great. Welcome. Appreciate you being here again. One point I'll make is that each of these workshops is different. We do these workshops twice a year. And it's, again, set up to bring in great speakers that really allow the cohort and everybody else to engage directly with some of our senior leaders, both within NASA and outside of NASA. Each workshop sometimes has a different topic as we move it around. We also like to move the workshops around to different locations. We've been to Washington, D.C., we've been to JSC, we've been to Goddard, we've been to KSC, we've been all over. We were supposed to have been this past spring. Our workshop was supposed to be up at NASA Glenn, but we had to cancel that due to the COVID outbreak. And then, of course, this is our first virtual one. I'm hoping that this situation will get resolved in 6 months by the time of our next workshop, when right now we're planning to go down to the Kennedy Space Center. But stay tuned. If things don't get resolved, we'll be doing another virtual one. All right, so we've got 86% said no, 14% said yes. Okay, thank you. All right, next question, just to get you used to doing the polling. How are you feeling today? And this is a multiple choice. And I'll give you a few options to select from. Good. Most people are outstanding or good. That's excellent. Got a few that are okay today. And those 4% of you that are I need to talk to you during the break. All right, another simple question is get to know each other a little better. Are you right-handed or left-handed? Kind of interested in what's the makeup of this group? Okay, so yeah, not surprising. It's a right-handed world, so 80% are right-handed, and we've got about almost 20% left-handed, which is actually not surprising. 10% of the population are left-handed, but we tend to have actually a few more, like myself, left-handed folks in the space program for some reason. So, okay, great. Question 4, as we get to know people a little better, what is your favorite color? And I just gave you some options here. If I didn't get your option, I apologize. Select other. Interesting. Okay, so well over 50% of us selected blue. Looks like followed by green and red and purple. We're tied. Black, orange, yellow, pink, and then we have 2 others. Okay, so somebody who selected other, tell me what the other color is. I forgot.
Brown.
Brown. Okay, thank you. I forgot brown. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Okay, question 5. Now this is for a word cloud, and I just want you to type in what city were you born in? We have people with a sense of humor. Thank you. Quite the variety, I'll say. If I had asked you where you live, generally it would end up being some of the same places since we're all around NASA centers pretty much. But that's why I figured I'd ask you where you were born, since it's quite a variety. Look at where everybody's from. Very good. All right, thank you for playing that. We're going to be doing some more live polls and surveys throughout the workshop, and we'll be doing some more of that during some team building this afternoon. Actually, I'm going to do some more here in a little bit as well before we finish out this session. But it's just a way to get to know each other a little better, kind of get to know the group a little better, and we'll be doing some fun things like that as well as serious. All right, so on the screen now is our agenda. Once I finish up here, kind of our introduction session, we'll be doing a break, and then we'll be ready for Marla Perez from NASA Glenn to join us and share with you for that hour. And then we have Nikki Fox coming in after that to share with us. And you have all their biographies that I sent you ahead of time. If for some reason you didn't receive those, please let me know. And then this afternoon, we will be doing the project management case study that our first FPDP triad has put together. And then we'll be just wrapping up today with a little bit more team building as much as we can in this virtual environment, do a few things, talk about the pre-workshop survey that you all completed and some of that material. And we'll be going over that, and then we'll be finishing up here about 3:30. Easily we'll make that. Again, we're trying to make these days not too hard on you, because I know we all get worn out with these nonstop days of Zoom and team meetings. On Tuesday, excited to have Steve Jersick. Unfortunately, Administrator Bridenstine had something pop up just at the last minute, just a couple of days ago, that he has to attend to. So, but I'm really happy. Steve has been one of our frequent speakers here at the FPDP workshop, and does a great job especially as the senior AA here at NASA, has a lot of great insights to share with you. So you'll have some good opportunity to talk with Steve. And then we'll have a short discussion panel, or a little discussion panel. A lot of times when we meet in person, we'll have a discussion panel of 4 speakers. It's a little harder to do that again in the virtual environment, but we wanted to have at least, again, provide some variety to you. So we've got Crystal Johnson from Goddard and John Horak, who used to be at the NASA Marshall Space Flight Center, but now is at Ohio State. And ask them to share again their insights and lessons learned, but also to try to address some of the project formulation kinds of issues. Crystal's very much involved in project formulation at Goddard. John has been involved in project formulation phases of projects, and I know a lot of you, or some of you, have been involved in that as well. So I wanted them to kind of address some of those aspects, because project formulation, it's like any phase of a project, right? Each phase has its kind of unique aspect to it. Then on Tuesday afternoon, we've got Jim Ryder, who's our chief technologist at NASA, or the head of STMD. And he will be sharing some good insights on technology management. We've kind of asked him to address that issue. And then again, we'll have our second FPDP triad present a different kind of case study that they were working on. And then we'll finish up tomorrow with Kathy Leaders, of course, as you know, is the new head of HEMOD at NASA headquarters, and just stepping into that role. I've known Kathy a long time. We had Kathy actually speak a few years ago at our previous KSC leadership workshop, and of course she was in the role of for commercial crew in those days, and now she's dealing with a whole another kettle of fish, and so looking forward to hearing from Kathy. And then we'll do a wrap up, and it should be done in the 3:30 to 4 o'clock time frame. And then our last day on Wednesday, we'll kick it off with Lisa Watson-Morgan. Of course, she's the head of the Artemis Human Landing System program that, of course, is definitely in the fire right now with the Artemis program, and looking forward to hearing what Lisa has to say. Then our last triad, FPDP triad, will be presenting a third case study that they have put together for you, and you'll be getting those results as well. Then Dave Mitchell, who you heard talk earlier, and Chris Singer, who is retired at NASA but used to be the deputy chief engineer. He's doing a lot of teaching and doing a lot of reflecting on project management and systems engineering. So he's going to be joining Dave for a little discussion. And both of them are going to share some insights, and then hopefully we'll have some good Q&A and discussion. And then we're going to finish off with our guest speakers with Jim Crocker. Don't know if you know Jim, but he was the head of the Civil Space Organization at Lockheed Martin for many years, and then since retired. Jim is still very active in the community, especially in the National Academy. And he worked on James Webb, and he worked on Hubble, and he's worked on a whole variety of different key NASA programs. But part of what he's been doing since he retired has been pulling together lessons learned on why do we struggle so hard on major programs. So if you read any of the GA reports, NASA doesn't always get the best scores on some of our large programs, and we're always getting criticized for overrunning, behind schedule, those kinds of things. Jim's been studying a lot of that, both in the context of supporting a National Academy study that was looking into that, but also it's kind of been a pet project and pulling together some lessons learned on that. So he will be sharing some of those thoughts with you. And then we'll do a wrap up. So anyway, that's our agenda for this week. As I mentioned earlier, our next workshop, we hope to do it in person. It is scheduled for April 6th through 8th. We'll fine tune those dates as we get closer, and we'll see what the situation is, whether we will actually be able to meet in person once again, or we will have to do it virtually. Since this is the first FPDP workshop for many of you, basically the way you get invited is you have to be nominated by your center director. So I always go out to each of the center directors and give them a quota of how many people from each center can be invited. And they send me a list of who they want to send. Sometimes we get some of the repeat folks. Sometimes we get new people as they want to rotate them through. I leave it up to them. So I can inform you when the next one is going to occur. But if you have interest in joining us for the next one, make sure you let your supervisor know, and make sure your supervisor lets your center director know, because we'll be working the invitations around the first of the year. Okay, so let's do another couple of polls before we wrap up this introduction session. And what is your favorite kind of music to listen to? So let me turn that on. Quite a variety there. It's not like all the same. That's true. That's good. And of course, I know a lot of us, I look down the list, a lot of us can resonate with more than just one, I'm sure. Oh, excellent. Yeah, a lot of variety. The fact that we bring so much variety. We have very different backgrounds, but we're all interested in project management, resource management, some kind of management, which is why I assume you're here. All right, thank you. Next question. Okay, you got to think about this one just a little bit. I want you to put down one word that best describes you at work, and it can only be one word. Like we got focused and driven and busy, passionate, excellent, intense, busy, I understand all those. Motivated, excellent, friendly. Wow. Yeah, I definitely want to work with all of you. Tenacious, great, excellent. A doer, behind schedule, yeah, I can resonate to that too. Positive, excellent. Curious, that's great. Sincere, excellent qualities. Yep, I want to work with all of you. Okay, our next question. What is your favorite flavor of ice cream? Cracks, cookies and cream. It's like chocolate is still the winner though, as usual. Mint chocolate chip is great. Yep, vanilla, cookies and cream, strawberry. Yeah, those look Rocky Road. Those are the more popular ones. Peanut butter, yep. But man, look at the variety. Now you're making me hungry for lunch here. Excellent. Next question. Now, this one's a multiple choice, and you got to help me understand what kind of job you have. And so there's just a couple of choices. Do you mostly support NASA science missions, human exploration missions, technology development, aeronautics, or something other? Looks like we have almost 60% are doing science, about 30% human exploration, about 25 technology, about only 3 doing aeronautics, and no other. Okay. It's like we still got a few late votes, but that's great. That's interesting. Okay. Let's see, we have time for another question. Question 10 is, so what is your favorite sport to watch or play? Running, rowing. Okay, I'm a rower too. Good to see that. Not too many of us. Horseback riding. I like that one as well. Taekwondo. Excellent. Good. Looks like a good, healthy group. Everybody's active. At least will like to watch it or participate in it. Bicycling. Good. Good. Very good, active group. Like to see that. Okay. Next question. So what are you looking forward to most from the workshop? So just type in, and this is open text. You can type as little or as much as you want, but just interested in, what is it, that kind of enticed you to join us here today? Wow. Good. So lots of insights into the agency leaders and little speakers. Yep. All right. Appreciate that. Okay, let me turn that poll off. Okay, at this point, we are at 10 minutes to the hour. So we are going to take our first break, and then hopefully we will be joined here shortly by Marla Perez Davis, and we'll be starting back in 10 minutes. I'll start the timer. Thanks.